Brittany Loves Reading, and we are at the time of year where I get to choose my books for the 2024 Buzzword Reading Challenge. This is a reading challenge done by Books and Lala. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's very popular here on BookTube, and I have participated for the last 3 years. I absolutely love the Buzzword Reading Challenge, and I can't wait to do it again this year. Let's jump in and see what 12 books I'm going to be reading throughout the year. I don't typically read them necessarily in the month that we're supposed to read them in. I just try to read them sometime during 2024. So for January, we have to read a book with there, or there in the title, and this was actually deceptively difficult. I thought this was going to be easy, and I had no physical books on my shelves that I wanted to read that had this prompt in it. Luckily, I did have a KU book that I want to get to, and that is Sophie Lark's There Are No Saints. This is a dark romance with a serial killer element. Exactly how that works, I do not know. But I read a Sophie Lark earlier this year, one of the Brutal Prince series, and I really enjoyed that. And serial killer books tend to be something I enjoy. What does that say about me as a person? Let's not look closely at it. It's fine. So I will be reading that for this prompt. For positive words, I'm going to be reading The Sweetest Remedy by Jane Agaro. This is a romance, kind of. I've heard that there's a lot of family elements that kind of make this less romance and more of like a family drama situation, but there is a romantic element. So I'm going into that knowing that it's not really a true romance where the romance is like the main plot of the book. It's still something that I'm very interested in reading, and I'm really excited to get it on this year's Buzzword. Hannah has never known her father, but her father has passed away. He lives in Nigeria, and she has been invited to come to the funeral in Nigeria. She goes and meets her whole Nigerian family, as well as finding a gentleman while she is there. I feel like this book is going to have some really amazing culture in different parts of Nigerian culture that maybe I don't know about, so I'm excited to dive into this book in February, in theory. For March, we needed a book with a character name in the title, and I'm going to be reading The First Time Lauren Paling Died by Allison Rudd. This is a book that was on my fall TBR, didn't get to it, so I need to read it still this year. It's a book that I've had my eye on for a while. I was hoping to read it in the fall, obviously didn't get to it, and now I'm going to. So Lauren is born in the 60s, a child in the 70s. She is 13 years old when she dies for the first time. She's a teenager in the 80s and falls in love in the 90s, and she keeps coming back to life. However, in every one of her lives, a man named Peter does go missing, and she is constantly tasked with finding out what happens to him. I find this concept very fascinating, and I'm really hoping to enjoy this book. For April, we needed a book with nature, and I will be reading Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I know this book has mixed reviews, but I do own it, and I do want to get to it in 2024 and see how I feel about this book. So this follows Fern and Will. Fern and Will spent 24 hours together in their 20s, and it was undeniable that they had a connection, but the timing just wasn't right. So they made a pact to meet up again 1 year later and see if maybe the timing will work out at that point. Fern shows up, Will does not. 9 years later, Will does show up, and we have to see why he didn't show up, and is there a way forward for Fern and Will? For May, we had to find a book with the word every in the title, so I will be reading Every Last Lie by Mary Kubica. This is a thriller that follows Claire. Claire's whole life is turned upside down when her husband is in a car crash with their 4-year-old daughter. He does not survive. Their daughter is very injured, and the crash is ruled an accident. However, their daughter Maisie is now remembering some things from the crash that is making Claire believe it may not have been an accident after all, and it sends Claire into looking into what actually happened the night of the crash. For this next book, you may think, Brittany, why are you doing this to yourself? And I don't really know why I'm doing it to me either, but it's for repeating words. I'm going to be reading Blood of My Blood by Barry Ligra. Now, you think, that sounds fine. Why would I be questioning you? And that's because this is the last in a trilogy, and I have not started the trilogy. So I will have to read all 3 books next year in order for this book to count. That's okay. I've been really wanting to read this trilogy for a while. It's YA, and I'm slightly concerned that I won't like it as much as maybe I would have when I purchased it because it's YA and I don't read a lot of YA. However, it is a YA thriller, and I do still read YA thrillers, and I still usually enjoy YA thrillers, but I want to get to this before I kind of stop even enjoying YA thrillers. I'm feeling myself pull away from YA, and I need to get to this before I am kind of out of the genre completely. So reading the trilogy this year needs to happen. This follows Jazz. Jazz starts to work with the FBI to find a serial killer, and why does Jazz have the ability to know about serial killers? It's because his father was one, and he witnessed his father murder many people before he was captured. So Jazz has a really interesting insight into serial killers. He is a young adult at the point of these books, and we see him help the FBI find this new serial killer. It sounds like a really interesting concept, but one of the reasons I actually bought this series is for the naked hardcovers. Let me show you this. Look at this hardcover. It would only be better if it had sprayed edges. For July, we have measurements. I've decided to go with a measurement of time and do 8 Perfect Hours by Leah Lewis. This is a book that seems Christmassy, but it actually takes place over a 24-hour period in January. So I'm kind of hoping to get to it next month in January. That's kind of my plan. Noelle gets stuck in a blizzard and is now stranded in the road in her car with no food, no water, nothing. When another person who is also stranded, Sam, comes and knocks on her window offering assistance, they spend 8 hours together, and I'm assuming a romance happens, but we'll see. For the month of August, I had to find a book with the word like, and I will be reading Like a Girl by Talia Hibbert. I love Talia Hibbert's writing. I'm very happy to read a Talia Hibbert book. This one I know very little about. I know it has a small town element. I know it has autism rep, and that's really about it. And I know it's probably going to be smutty because it's Talia Hibbert. In September, we needed to have a sense, and I've decided to go with A Touch of Sage by Yafa S. Centenos. This is a food romance. I love me a food romance, I believe set in a restaurant. So this is something that I've been wanting to get to pretty much all year, and I haven't, so it's happening in 2024. So Lumi is a very talented chef and starts her own restaurant, but unfortunately it doesn't succeed and it does fail. And she ends up taking a sous chef position at a French restaurant under Julian. And somehow, while these two are cooking in the kitchen, they cook up a romance. So for the prompt of relationships, I'm going to read The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. This is another YA thriller. I have a few YA thrillers on my shelves that I want to get to this year. This follows 3 cousins who have actually never met their grandmother, and they actually don't really know each other very well either. They've only met a handful of times. They are invited to their grandmother's house. Their grandmother disinherited the family, and they've never met her. But they get invited to come and work and spend the summer at her estate. And their parents are like, you're going. We need to get back in her good graces. We want her inheritance someday. Go children. So they send their children off to this woman's house, and very quickly things start going on. Things start happening. We start discovering some family secrets. What are those family secrets? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. For the month of November, we had to find a book with the word only, and I will be reading My Cone and Only by Susanna Nix. This is the start to a series that I believe follows a group of brothers throughout each book, and somehow they own an ice cream store. I don't know how much that plays into the first book. I would assume quite a bit since there's a cone in the name, there's a pun, but it's not really much in the synopsis. So how much ice cream is in this romance? I do not know. Wyatt is not looking for love in his small town, but he's found it. However, it is a forbidden love. He cannot date Angie. She is his best friend's sister. So she is off limits to Wyatt, but when her grandmother's house is set to be demolished, he swoops in to help fix it up. And obviously this is a romance, so at some point Angie and Wyatt do get together. For December, we have to do holiday words. I've decided to go with the word December because that was one of the options Kayla put in the video, and I'm reading a book that I just recently purchased, and that is A December to Remember. I absolutely adored this cover, and this was definitely a cover buy when I went to the store. And I bought it for the cover. We all buy books for the cover sometimes. Let's be honest. We all do this. I'm not the only one. This follows 3 half-sisters, and these sisters did not really know each other growing up. They grew up with their mothers. They only saw each other occasionally when they would come to their father's house for summers, etc. Now they are grown. They are estranged. They do not speak to each other. When their father dies, and they all have to come to his estate to read his will, they discover that he has set up various tasks and hoops for them to jump through to get their inheritance. And I believe this brings the sisters together. This is definitely not really a romance. It's more of a women's fiction situation, but I had to buy it. It sounded fun and interesting, and the cover got me. And that is the end of the 12 books that I will be reading for Buzzword 2024. Let me know some of your Buzzword reading challenge picks. I would love to know if we went in the same direction, if we went in different directions at all. I am interested to find out. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.